All right, guys, welcome back to the Left to Center podcast. I am Ben Knight.
I'm Rob Royce.
And we're back.
This is episode number 3.
This is episode number 3. And, you know, probably by the time we get to, like, there will be a time where we're not like, hey, this is episode 1265. Are you excited, Rob?
We're going to forget about it.
Oh.
And thank goodness.
But I do want to say again, like, you know, we're super excited about the awesome comments and the, you know, been some awesome reviews on iTunes and all the comments and interaction on Twitter. We have just enjoyed it immensely.
Yes, we have.
It's been super, super great. And a lot of people have been checking out the blogs on lefttocenterpodcast.com. That's been really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, this particular episode, this is actually an intro into the Rachel Hendrix interview.
That's right.
So we're going to talk a little bit and not go crazy because we know you guys want to hear about Rachel. In fact, there are actually people that are excited about.
Yeah, we've collected a lot of traffic in sense, you know, like people, how'd you get Rachel Hendrix? And so we're really stoked that we've got her. And I've got to say, I'm really bummed. I didn't get to be a part of the interview with Rachel Hendrix. Our schedules just didn't work out for me to be able to join up with that. So we're actually going to run the interview on a previously recorded track between Ben and Rachel. And so this is me saying, hi, Rachel. Thank you for joining us on the Left to Center podcast. And I'm sorry I wasn't able to be there.
Which actually bums me out, too, because it was not a thing where, don't worry, Rob and I did not get in an argument, you know, because, like, he broke my favorite coffee mug or something. And then I pined about it. And I was like, you know what, fine. He can't do the interview then. I'm going to do it. So, no, it was just scheduling conflicts. And that was the time that Rachel could do it. I had time, and Rob and I weren't able to get into the yeah. Rob and I weren't able to get into the studio to do it, so I had to do it from my home with Rachel. And but it was really cool, and you guys will actually find out just how cool it was.
Nice.
Here, you know, hopefully not too long. But actually, I mentioned mugs, and it's something that I know for sure Rob wants to talk about because Rob loves mugs.
Well, I mean, we've got this set of mugs at home. You know, we've got like actually, if we don't want to use this particular set, we use these ones that are from Christmas. And those are the two kind of mugs that we've got. We've got this one that's part of a fine china set made by Lennox, and it's super nice. We got them on a discount somewhere, and we thought, well, what if we got the rest of this, you know, china pattern for our house for our everyday use or whatever? And it's like, you know, these things are actually like $15 to $20 a piece. And so forget it. We got the deal on 6 of them or something like that. So that's my main coffee mug, but they're like this. They're my wife's coffee mugs. They've got like this nice leaf pattern on them, and they've got this elegant and somewhat feminine shape.
It sounds very manly. I like it.
Well, I agree that they're wonderful, lovely mugs. But in terms of sitting here at my podcast, recording with my mug of my coffee, it's like this isn't going to fit. Neither does the Christmas mug. So like a couple weeks ago.
Well, I mean, it'll work like in a couple months from now when we're recording at Christmas time.
That's right. But for now, like we said a couple months or weeks ago, that we went out shopping for mugs so that I could have my Left of Center podcast mug. And we couldn't find anything. No novelty mugs, no nothing. But Ben here, he surprised me with saying, hey, guess what I've got? I've got this prototype mug.
Surprise!
Yeah, man, it has Left of Center podcast on it, and it's got a lion on it. If you guys check us out on Twitter or on Facebook, you'll see a picture of this thing too. It's absolutely awesome. The lion, there's a lot of ways that we could reference this from the Bible or from maybe some of our favorite books like Chronicles of Narnia or something like that. They're super appropriate for the kind of things we want to talk about. It's an awesome mug. So if you guys check out a picture of that, and we're going to see how much traction that we can get with our listening audience, whether or not they want to have a mug like this or not too, because we can get a lot of these, and we would love to get them out to you.
And it's, you know what, it is actually pretty cool. I have to admit, like I was looking at it and I'm like, that is actually a pretty cool mug. I would like to have a mug like that.
I didn't think I was going to like the white mug. Because they seem like vanilla, kind of just generic.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk of, Rob and I were discussing, we're like,
we need a novelty color or something.
Yeah,
like
we need like, you know, a black mug, a white mug, an orange mug, like which to be. And I was like, well, let's try the white mug, just see. And Rob was just like,
it's like turned out awesome.
Yeah, I'm down with the mug.
So guys, check it out. Check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Facebook. Check out the mug if you want one. We promise somehow one way or another we'll get you one. Right? Can we promise that?
We can promise something like that. Actually, one of the things we want to do, we actually do want to put the mug into a couple of your hands. And so what we will do is, if you guys go to iTunes and look up leftofcenterpodcast.com and you throw up a review, and should it be, actually, my question to you, Rob, is if somebody gives us a negative review, do we still want to give them a mug?
I guess that's the only way we can really be fair about it.
That's
because,
true.
You know, we're not gonna not benefit from negative reviews. I mean, you guys who don't dig this thing and have ideas of the sort of, I mean, because some of the negative comments that we get, I wouldn't necessarily say they're negative, and nobody's wrote in to say,
No.
hey, you guys suck, we hate you.
Yeah.
But we have had people write in and say, hey, you know, if you guys took this in this direction, or if you took that in that direction, and those are helpful comments, and those aren't the ones that necessarily make us feel like rock stars, but they don't make us feel like we're on top of our game. And you know, all of those kind of comments are really helpful. Those are going to help sharpen us and hone us and all those sort. I think we do need to offer some sort of incentive for leaving an honest
That's
review.
true. And I think, like Rob's saying, you know, we may not be anyone's cup of tea, pun intended, but it's like, you know, that's totally fine. Like, we know that we're not going to appeal to certain people, and that's just fine. But so what we'll do, we'll say this. So if you go to iTunes and hopefully you wrote a positive review, but for every person that writes a review, we're going to take all of your names and we're going to put them in a hat, and we're going to draw 2 out, and you will get a free Left of Center podcast mug. And we will actually make sure that we contact you. We will go on Twitter and we will say, hey, this person who did this review and your reviewer name is this, you know, go ahead and get a hold of us so we know it's you, and then give us your, you know, we'll do it.
Contact info.
Yeah, give us your contact info. And then that way we can go ahead and get the mug sent out to you. So if this sounds cool to you guys, go on iTunes, give us a review, hopefully positive. And
well, that's on us.
That's on us. The positive is on us. So if you dig what we're doing and you like it, by all means put a positive review. If you don't, you know, be honest. But we'll still put your name in the hat to get drawn for a free mug.
So if you hate the mug, still leave a review.
Yeah, there you go.
If you don't want the mug,
if you don't want a mug, yeah, even, you know what, even if you don't want a mug, we'll take the review anyway.
There might be some other things that we can offer, and give you a selection of things like that. So, but anyway, we want to make these mugs available to you. We want to order lots and lots of them because they look awesome. I think I'm excited about it. I've drank a whole cup of coffee out of this thing already, and
it's true.
And even though I didn't wash it, and
that's true. Rob has been a daredevil. Like he literally pulled the thing out of the box and he just put coffee right in it and drank it like a caveman.
What's the worst that can happen? I get sick.
It's true, because actually right now you may notice that Rob kind of sounds like this.
Hey,
he kind of sounds like he's like.
All right. It's true.
It's like, I'm Ben Knight. I'm Rob Royce, and I'm sick.
Whatever, man. Okay, so yesterday I came down with something. I even almost called off our podcast recording today. I was like, dude, I am not feeling good. But here we are. I have got nasal upper sinus congestion, and I'm doing the best I can to just not snort and sniff in your ear.
And it sounds pretty good so far.
Thanks.
But no, it's, you know what, and that's to prove that we actually are doing this for people other than ourselves. Rob is sick, and we're recording the podcast.
Well, really, the only symptom I've got is this upper sinus congestion. I don't feel bad in any other way.
See, do you know what you just did right there?
No.
I just made people go, oh man, I like Rob. He's sick and he's still willing to do a podcast for us. And then you sold yourself short.
Well,
sir.
Let me put it this way. If I didn't want to do this podcast, I wouldn't be doing this podcast.
That's exactly right. We'd be doing something completely different. So,
you know, we want to be here. I want to be here.
That.
Yes, I am dealing with this cold. But, you know, enough vitamin C and things like that. I'll kick it. Now, I got to make sure, because I am maintaining my pop pact, and nothing that I'm having. I drank some daytime. Well, last night I drank some nighttime medication that's supposed to help with this sort of thing. I think there was sugar in it. Can I get forgiven for that?
You absolutely can, because
just
I'm
tiny
still
little cup of it.
I've still had stuff with sugar in it. I still have not had a pop though. I have not had one pop.
So you're holding on to the pop.
I'm holding on to the pop. I have not had a single pop.
I've had some diet pop, but nothing with sugar in it. So
but
we've got our own version.
But that's even twice as bad for you, sir.
Is it?
Yes. You're drinking canned like evil.
Well, I haven't been drinking a lot of it. It's there, you know, you order.
Okay, so yours is actually the sugar thing then. So you can still have pop.
The biggest thing for me is the sugar.
See what? Yeah, we may have to totally amend this whole thing because I think we're both cheating in one way or another.
Well, I'm cheating on your diet, and you're cheating on my diet. So maybe we just own it. Okay, there was one other thing that we never mentioned about the Pop Pact, and this is what I wanted to get your honest. I mentioned before that we started the podcast. I have a topic I want to bring up, and I want to get Ben's honest reaction to it. Okay, one of the things you brought up originally about that Pop Pact, and we never did go any further with it, but the night that you said, "Hey Rob, let's start this pact," and I was like, "Awesome." You added something else to it, and we forgot to ever bring it up again. You remember what it was?
The T-shirt?
No.
Oh.
No, not that. But there was another thing to this pact that you suggested, and we never revisited.
I'm kind of curious now.
You said that we do certain exercises.
Oh, yes.
Remember that?
Yeah, we kind of forgot all about the idea of actually exercising. Like, hey, we're going to give up pop, but we're still going to keep getting fat.
We could.
So,
I have ways to
that's a good idea. Maybe
sugar.
we should, you know what? Maybe we should do, let's do this right now. And actually, we should probably move on after we talk about this for a second, just so people don't get totally annoyed
I'm going
with this.
somewhere with this.
Okay. Maybe we should add, and maybe we should hold ourselves accountable to the podcast, to people listening.
All right.
We can come back next week, and even though it'll be a little embarrassing, possibly, because we're not obese by any stretch of the imagination, but we could
That's
stand
what
to
that one
lose a
book
couple.
says. You go online and you say, "What's the body mass index for a guy?" Because what's your height?
My height is just over 5'11". According to my body mass index, I'm obese.
Right, because Ben and I are exactly the same height. You look at these superhero characters that I'm depicting us as on Twitter and Facebook, and it puts me, the version of me and the superhero character, at like 6 inches taller, but I'm not. Ben and I are exactly the same height, and I guess we're within 10 to 15 pounds of the same weight.
Probably.
So we're pretty much the same. We're in the same exact situation, basically. But yeah, so I've got the same problem Ben has, in that this internet site tells me I'm obese, and I don't know if that's.
And it's one of those things where it's like, again, like there's not. I mean, I got a little bit of a front, but I'm, as far as being more out of shape, I'm more out of shape than Rob.
I don't know if
I'm rounder around the midsection. I just suck it in better. But maybe that's what we should do. Maybe to include people in on this is like hold ourselves accountable, and maybe would it even be one of those things where maybe we should involve people. Maybe we should do something where people are like, maybe we should do some sort of like set up some sort of weight loss challenge with everyone.
I'm going to write that down.
And just say, hey, like, let's do a weight loss challenge together. Maybe that's something we'll talk about next week, but that's
cool.
So what I'll say this, next week we should announce what our weight is. And then that way, when we come in every week to record, we can say, all right, well, I lost 4 pounds. I didn't change, or I gained 3 pounds, That way we're holding ourselves accountable to each other, but we're also like involving our listeners by saying, hey, look, we're not going to beat this to death every single podcast, but hey, we want to involve you guys by saying, hey, if you guys are like us, you just hit your 30s, or even if you're in your 20s or 40s or whatever, and you're just like, oh, I'm so sick of being out of shape. Like, hey, let's all work together as brothers and sisters in Christ and say, hey, you know what? I need somebody to back me up, and we can kind of hold ourselves accountable.
I like this idea because, I mean, ever since the start, we've been saying that, this podcast is an opportunity for a lot of you guys out there who are listening to have, another voice into your life maybe. And we want you guys to be a voice into our life too. This is an awesome idea because the majority of people in Western society are dealing with the same thing. We know that we're not kind of drifting off on our own into some fringe idea here. A lot of people struggle with their weight, and so if we can, if by talking about this we can be helpful, that's what I want to do. So next week we're talking about the weight loss challenge, and we're going to add exercise to that. Do we want to add an exercise element?
I think that we should. You know what? Actually, if we're going to be coming out with what our weight is,
yeah,
I think that that's not even something we need to add. It's just like, look, if you don't want to be embarrassed next week, you probably should work out.
If I don't want,
like, I mean, for both of us, like,
sure,
pointing the finger at, like, okay, well, if we say, hey, we weigh X amount, and then next week we come in and we're like, okay, well, I lost 4 pounds. How'd you do? I gained 3. Like, that keeps you from being, like, we don't even have to make that a part of it. Like, look, if you don't want to work out, you don't have to, but there's a chance you're going to come back and be like, yeah, I'm embarrassed now.
Well, maybe I should add something. You know what, guys? I'm going to add something about this on my blog posts on leftofcenterpodcast.com. My blog is Prove Rob Wrong. And in this case, I'm probably not going to go after those kind of topics where, prove me wrong kind of topics, but I'll post a couple things, and I can even post a couple things a day. Nobody's holding me back from that. Just to kind of frame up a weight loss challenge. I'll head this up.
All right, okay. Rob's calling. He's in charge of this.
I'll head this up. I've got a couple ideas already, but I'm just not gonna. I've got to flush them out, so I'm not gonna.
Did you have more that we were gonna talk about?
Yeah,
on this?
the whole exercise element to this was gonna be that you were talking about doing 20 push-ups,
20 to 25 push-ups and 20 to 25 sit-ups.
Okay,
a day.
Now, just off the top of your head, your honest reaction: 20 push-ups, starting like in your current condition, is that gonna be easy or hard?
Unfortunately, in my current condition, I don't know if I would be able to do 20 straight. I would probably be able to do maybe I might be able to do 20 straight.
Do you want to try it right here?
Right now? right at this moment? Now? Would that make uninteresting podcast
I think so.
material?
Let's just give it a shot. I did it at home.
Oh, to see if you could do it?
Yeah.
Do you want to tell me if you could do it yet?
I did it. I did them, and
you did 20 in a row?
I did 20 in a row.
Without doing like the getting on your knees push-ups?
Yeah. I was actually pretty pleased with I was actually kind of pleased with my results in the way that I was hoping that hike would have gone up in the mountains. But here, I do have to say, and I'm not going to make you do 20 push-ups.
You know what? No,
right now.
Actually, this might make for, well, you know what? Hey, let's try it. Let's go for it.
All right, I'll count them off.
This is amazing audio right now, what we're doing. We're doing visual podcast stuff right now on an audio.
Okay, Ben he's getting into push-up position. I'm going to count them off for him. We're talking about 20.
All right, here we go.
Go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, looking good. 6, 7, 8, 9. His hat fell off. 10, 11, 12, 13. He's going to make it. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Dude, you did it. 20. There we go. All right, now, I got to tell you, when I did it at home, I felt pretty good afterwards, but now I'm dealing with a kink in my upper back. I can feel it. I know it's because of the push-ups. So I'm telling on myself.
I don't know if that was interesting for anybody, but I will say now I'm a little tired.
Yeah, if you're like me, you're going to feel it in your upper back here in a couple hours.
Okay, I'll ask you this. Did you do them as quickly as I just did them?
Yours looked a lot like how I thought mine felt.
Okay, because
that was you stayed steady. You didn't slow down. You didn't.
The last 3 or 4 were a little difficult, but that was the thing. I didn't know. I didn't want to rush it, but I wanted to do because Rob would have called me out if I would have done them incorrectly or. Oh, sorry, you got to keep talking, dude.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, because everybody who is. Everybody knows there's a correct way to do push-ups and there's an incorrect way to do push-ups. These were legit. I mean, he was even getting close enough to the ground where the brim of his cap bonked the ground and actually knocked his hat off. So I'm going to say you did 20 nice push-ups.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
And you did them in a rapid fashion, and it's no wonder you're tired. I mean, how many of you guys out there can relate? You haven't worked out for how many years?
Oh,
years?
It hasn't been years because like but well, here's it's been years since I've worked out steadily, like weekly.
I said the last time I've done a set of push-ups, it's probably 3 years. That might sound pathetic. Now, here's the other element to this.
It does sound pathetic though, because when you think about it though, as married men with children.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where you kind of do get it's not an intentional thing, but you get to a point where you're so busy.
Yeah.
And things get, because I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, and I won't mention it, but it was one where the guy was talking about like, he's not married, he has a girlfriend, but he lives on his own, but he can literally go work out twice a day. And there's no hindrance because like there's no, he doesn't have to be home by a certain time. And there's no, but once you get married and have a kid, like that kind of goes away. Like you have to have like, okay, when can I work out? Well, I can work out between 4 and 4:30 in the morning. Well, I don't want to get up that early.
No, it starts to become less. And even when I thought about the push-up thing, I forgot about the push-up element to this Pop Pact until this morning. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to try it.
Did your wife see you do them?
No.
Okay, that's probably a good thing. Well, and although if you said you did them very quickly, at least there would have been like, did you get up and you're just like, oh yeah, I'm a man.
Well, I if I'm being honest, I'll say yes, but I'm jinxing myself for that attitude because now I've got this upper pain in my back. And I'm not going to make a big deal of it because it really isn't a big deal. I'm only bringing it up because I'm admitting that this actually, my muscles might be strong enough still, and acclimated enough because of my 20 years of construction I keep talking about. But they're starting to, whatever that is, you start to go downwards. I'm downward enough where I can't do 20 rapid push-ups without paying for it. But anyway, just like we were talking about, that there are people out there who've got all kinds of time in the world where they can go to the gym and things like that. And good for you, all of you guys who do. In fact, my brother, I have a 23-year-old brother, he turns 23 next week, who he happens to hold a couple world records in powerlifting. He was the one who went hiking with me in that hike several weeks ago. And so a lot of times, people will associate me, people who know both of us will associate me as being, so now nobody really can duplicate, nobody can really just go out and duplicate his efforts in the gym because, like I said, he holds a couple different world records in powerlifting, but they kind of copy and paste his ability onto me. They're like, oh, your brother, he's the one who lifts.
The genetics must be there, Rob. You must be able to power lift a Buick.
They are not here with me, as you can see. My brother looks like a superhero character. He
looks like he should be able to, he looks like the kind of guy where you and I can walk in a door normally, but it looks like he would have to go in sideways because his muscles are so big.
His muscles are pretty big, and since we're talking about it, he weighs 170 pounds, and he bench presses, last I heard, 455. Anyway, so people tend to assume, since your brother can do this, you must have a little bit of that ability too. It is not true. And so I'm proving it with the 20 push-ups I did today. That was, by the way, maybe I could have squeezed a couple more out of it, but that's all I was doing.
Hey, that's all right. Hey, you got to start somewhere.
I knew a guy who was a gymnast, a high school gymnast, and I asked him, I said, well, how many chin-ups can you do? He goes, what do you mean? And I said,
is that a confusing question?
I said, I can do 4. How many can you do? And he says, oh, just stop when I want to stop. And I cannot relate. It kind of reminds me of this movie, was Matthew McConaughey and Jennifer Lopez. What was that movie? It was like The Wedding Planner or something like that?
The Wedding Planner, sure.
Yeah, because that's what happened in that movie. Matthew McConaughey, who's, of course, he's pretty
ridiculously ripped.
Yeah, he's ripped out too. But the Jennifer Lopez character had this fiance or somebody. He was some foreign guy from wherever it was.
Oh no, he's the guy that her dad tries to set him up with.
Right, and he's got some foreign accent or something. He's not from there, but it's like everything that he does, he's like super good at. And all that stuff, and one of the scenes is where he's doing.
Oh, they're both running on the treadmill, and he's trying to keep up with him.
Yeah, he can't keep up with on the treadmill. And there's another one where they're doing chin-ups on a chin-up bar, and Matthew McConaughey, he's at like 11 or 12.
He's like, how much old? He's like 35.
I think it was like 57 or something, 57, and he's like not even stopping for breath.
He's like, ah. Man, it's really pathetic. It kind of sounds like we know way too much about this kind of girly movie.
I've actually only seen The Wedding Planner once.
I cannot admit that. I would have to say that I've seen it probably at least 20 times.
What? Wow.
I know, isn't that messed up?
Well, I don't know. I mean, we've talked about chick flicks before, and if they're done with a certain amount of quality, then I'll watch it and I'll admit to liking it. And a lot of them are just cookie cutter, like this is going to appeal to a girl. And they remove any other element of a storyline of any sort. But I actually can't remember whether Wedding Planner. I think I liked. There was some dynamic I liked.
First of all, it's got Matthew McConaughey in it.
I like
usually, there's probably a 90% chance I'll watch a movie just if I know Matthew McConaughey's in it.
What was that one with Matthew McConaughey and Terry Bradshaw?
And Terry Bradshaw?
Terry Bradshaw, the quarterback.
Ugh.
It was like Failure
Failure to Launch?
Failure to Launch.
Oh, see, I think doesn't that have like Sarah Jessica Parker in it or something?
That I do
might
not
be.
remember.
Okay, see, that's sad. That's probably who if you'd have been like, oh, it's got Sarah Jessica Parker, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that one. Like Terry Bradshaw, quarterback,
Bradshaw.
manly man. Do you know that? No, I sure don't.
You can see if I admit to liking chick flicks, and there are ones that I do, but it's not necessarily because I objectively like chick flicks. They're pretty, I'm a subjective. I'll watch them, and usually I'll watch them once or twice, but.
See, this is something that we should definitely talk about on a subsequent podcast for sure.
Well, for sure, because we were actually, if we're going to include the interview with Rachel Hendrix on this one, we probably better get to that. But what if we on the next podcast, let's talk about
it. I like it. Let's run with that idea.
Okay.
So, guys, go ahead and check out who's this interview with again?
Rachel Hendrix.
That's right. So you guys check out the interview with Rachel Hendrix. This is Ben, and we're speaking with Rachel Hendrix. You might know her from October Baby or her newly released The Perfect Wave. And, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
It's good to be here. I'm glad you guys reached out.
I know you don't have a lot of time, so we'll kind of go to the stereotypical question first. But I know that people want to know this. What kind of made you get into acting? And is this something you always wanted to do?
It is a good question. I wonder the same thing about the actors that I watch on screen and end up looking them up too. It was really interesting how I got into acting, and it was really a series of meeting the right people and opportunities that came my way. Of just saying, you know what, this is working out and orchestrating way too well for me to be the one that's doing it myself. So I want to pay attention to that. I want to actually, sit with this and figure out what it's all about. So I originally got introduced to some filmmakers and some opportunities while I was in college. And I've studied in school, all growing up, I was doing art. I was always making something. I was always crafting and painting, and photography ended up being my medium, and I went to school for that. I went to college and graduated and finished with a degree in photography. So it's funny that through a series of meeting people, filmmakers and creatives alike, I did some short films. I was asked by friends to be in their college films, and I always had a lot of fun with it. Never thought I was any good at it, and I met a man named Chris Kimlin who put me in a short film, and it was called Letting Go. It was a black and white kind of haunting short film. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. That was the first time I'd ever seen myself in a serious role on screen. And so from that point on, people reached out to me and gave me some opportunities to go deeper with it. And now here I am, 5 features later, and I'm in it. I'm fully in it. I love it. I love what I get to do, and I love my job, and I think I have the greatest job in the world, and I'm not going to stop anytime soon.
Well, and you've had a chance to work with, I believe, is it Jason Berkey?
Uh-huh.
A couple of times. Is it kind of nice to be able to show up on set and you're like, oh, I know this person. This is going to make this, experience a little bit easier.
Absolutely. Working with people and you're close with, I've been close with Jason since we did Alumni. It was our first project together. And we've done now, it's kind of a running joke actually, how many things we get cast in as a couple. But he's a great guy. It's great to be familiar with your love interest on screen. You want that to be believable for sure. And you create a family a lot of times on set. And I have been very blessed to walk into these jobs and feel like I belong immediately. Not a lot of people have that experience with acting, and I know it won't always be that way because this is a business and people are there to make money, and a lot of times sometimes characters get thrown out of the window there, and you're not really around the kindest people. But in my experience, I've been so fortunate to work with passionate, driven, humble people that resonates to me, and it makes me want to also behave this way, to always approach things with kind of humble eyes and say, I get to do this awesome job and I love it, And I should be so thankful to even be standing here. There's nothing more humbling than getting to do what you love to do. So having a family atmosphere on set is just kind of the icing on the cake, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And you did work with Jason on October Baby and other things as well, like you said, alumni, and maybe even things in the future. And actually, speaking of October Baby, it is a very emotional movie, and we'll get the kind of the heavy stuff out of the way. But there are some heavy subjects in that movie, which of course include abortion. How did you prepare for this role, and what was it like playing that type of character?
Well, to go back to what you were just saying about Jason, I just had a film come out 2 weeks ago called Coffee Shop. I don't know if you're familiar with this film.
Yes.
Okay, so in Coffee Shop, Jason plays my boyfriend / fiance, and it's a romantic comedy. So for the first time, we're getting to do a comedic role together, and to come into a comedy with these comedic elements, this kind of energy back and forth of familiarity between the two of us, ended up being really, really believable, and it translated so well on screen. That was so much fun and so easy compared to the October Baby storyline, which was all very serious, very dramatic, very gut-wrenching, heartbreaking material for a first feature. And it was just crazy that I had no idea how to prepare. I didn't study this. This isn't a book that you read and learn how to be an actor. You get thrown into these situations. You can prepare as much as you want to, but in the end of the day, with the cameras rolling and you're in the moment, you really have to trust your instincts. And that's how I prepare. I prepare by not really preparing, because if I prepare and I get in my head, I don't think that the performances are nearly as authentic, but that's just my process. And I know a lot of people do it differently, and there's nothing against that. But for me, I have to let it happen as organically as possible. And otherwise, I feel kind of like a fraud, if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. And I think you actually kind of answered my next question a little bit, and maybe you can just touch on it just a little bit more with the audition process, whether it's for a TV movie, a movie, a commercial, whatever it is. You just kind of explained your particular process. What is it like for you during the audition process?
If I don't go into an audition and have fun, then I should be doing something else. Auditioning is our job. We go and go and go. We show up, we bring our best, and then we leave it at the door and walk away. The reward is the job. Booking the job is the reward. That's where the magic happens. But the work is really our auditioning process, our education there, what we bring to the table in front of the casting director. So that's always a lot of fun and takes a lot of preparation, but it's also, like I said, for an audition, you really need to leave all your expectations at the door. There's going to be 100 reasons why you do or don't get cast for something. Either you fit perfectly in the role that the director's looking for, or they're going to move on from you. There's really nothing you can do except just be exactly who you are, because they smell authenticity. I guess to answer your question, the most important thing for me is to walk in and just be my best self and bring in what I've prepared to become this character and have fun doing it and show your personality.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you did touch on it. I mean, it's hard to want to do something, especially in the business that you're in, if you're not having a good time doing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, you're not going to last very long unless you just love it and all the parts of it.
Well, it's awesome to hear that, you had such a good time with Jason again, making this newer movie. Now, you've had a chance to work with, I'm sure, some very fun and very people that take their craft seriously, but still have a good time on set. I did want to bring up The Perfect Wave real quick, and just talk about Scott Eastwood, who's one of your castmates in The Perfect Wave. And for anybody who doesn't know, a son of legendary actor Clint Eastwood, what was it like working with him?
Scott's an interesting guy, and he's very good at what he does. I have to admit I was a little intimidated, and it took about 5 seconds for me to not feel that anymore when I met him, because he's just so ordinary in terms of a normal 25-year-old guy who loves surfing. He's very unpretentious, and he's friendly, and he's he's high energy, and when he's on screen, he just has a very magnetic presence. So they did a wonderful job choosing him and casting him as Ian, and it was interesting to get to know who he is and see him separate from his father. I don't even really think after a few days that was really a connection I was making anymore, except that he looks so much like him that I'm reminded, oh, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
I'm reminded of young Clint Eastwood here, but he's really making his own way. He's been in a lot of stuff the past couple of years, that are breaking the boundaries of this Clint Eastwood son, and getting cast in Clint Eastwood's films. He's breaking out of that box and really doing his own thing and following a new path, that I think he probably would have been able to do regardless who he is, regardless whose son he is, because he's passionate about it. He's mega talented. He is like I said, he has a magnetic presence on screen, and he's just a beautiful man. And he, I think, is doing a lot to make a name for Scott. And he's incredible in the perfect way. He carries the whole movie.
Well, and we had a lot of questions from people, and one of them actually was, and I don't know if he might have mentioned any of this at all. Like you said, it probably was a little intimidating the first couple of days. Did he have any cool stories about his dad at all?
I mean, like a father would have with the son. I mean, we really didn't go there. We didn't really talk about that. We were together for 7 weeks. You have a lot of conversations. I know I did remember him saying that he had been approached to do a Western. And he said, I have to be really careful about which Western I do, or what the script is, or what the project is, because it's kind of some big shoes to fill there. And I thought that was poignant and well said, and wise to be smart about that. Because in the end, I think Scott will do a Western, and he will do it very well. But it's gonna be the right one.
I suppose that would be a very difficult thing. It's like, okay, my dad was in some of the biggest and most well-known Westerns that have ever existed. Like, I don't know if I want to do just this, stereotypical spaghetti Western. And
absolutely,
that's
a big decision.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, you also got to work with Cheryl Ladd. For some of you listening right now, you may not know, amongst many other things that she's done, she was actually one of Charlie's Angels, Chris Monroe to be exact. What was it like working with her as well?
I didn't actually get to work with Cheryl. I wish that I had. She was on set, and I did get to see her and meet her. We had dinner together one night and was able to go deep, and I enjoyed her so much. She's a kind, humble woman, and it was great having her energy on set when our paths did cross. I feel like they made a great decision choosing her for this part, and I've enjoyed seeing the process lay out. And as the film's coming out in theaters, as coming out on DVD and in theaters, they had interviewed Cheryl, and I saw her on the cover of a family magazine. I was walking in LA, and I saw at the magazine strip that Cheryl Ladd was on the front of a magazine with her dog, and I grabbed it and I read through it as fast as I could, because she was a compelling woman, very interesting, and has been around. She's seen some things. She's been in this business a long time. So I just listened to her talk and tried to learn as much as I could and absorb information and learn her heart in the small amount of time that we had. But, it was certainly special to have her around and get to meet her in the small time that we did have.
Absolutely. And I do want to, and I will take a step back and not just talk about, the actors that were in the movie, but, judging by the cinematography, seemed like this was a pretty fun movie to be doing location wise. What different places were you able to do the filming?
We shot in South Africa, most all of the places in South Africa, not just Cape Town, but all around, the east side, the west side. We were everywhere. We did a garden route trek twice, which is an 8-hour drive north from Cape Town up through what looks like New Zealand. I mean, South Africa is one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen, and the canola fields were blooming, and so there was just like yellow flowers all across these large landscapes of hills, and the other crops were purple, so you have yellow and purple and green and mountains. And I was just falling in love with this place. Of course, not to mention all of the coastlines. There is a lot of area in South Africa that's uncultivated, so you can drive for 15 minutes outside of Cape Town and be in total wild ocean with mountains and people, wild horses running on the beach. It's just insane how beautiful this place is. And so we spent most of our time there recreating the scenes of where the actual story took place. Because Ian traveled from New Zealand all the way to the Cape of Africa and then to the island of Mauritius. And if you can imagine, that's actually kind of like a semicircle shape across the globe. So we needed to make sure that we tapped into all of those locations. So we dubbed New Zealand, we dubbed Australia, we dubbed the island of Mauritius all in South Africa. And then we shot the Indonesia stuff, actually. Some of it was dubbed in South Africa, but some of it was shot in Indonesia because we did travel there and shoot a lot of surfing there. So all across the board, we had the most beautiful scenes and landscapes for Trevor Brown, our cinematographer, to just walk in and make his magic happen. And it's an absolutely brilliantly shot film, and it's beautiful. And I got to see the beauty of the African continent in a way that I'd never expected to ever see in my life. And I think that's really celebrated in the film.
You touched on it for just a second. You know, this is actually, for a lot of people that don't know, this movie is actually based on a true story. Mm-hmm. And so that's another reason to take a look at it, you know, amongst the performances and you know, the awesome landscape. But actually, you mentioned something else for just a split second. Now, this is a movie about surfing. So is this something now that, are you a surfer now?
I am a surfer now, yes. I learned for the film. I was always wanting to learn how to do it, but we don't have waves in the South. I'm from the South, and unless you go to South Carolina, I'm from Alabama, and the Florida Panhandle doesn't really get a lot of waves, in the Gulf of Mexico even. So unless it's a hurricane or something. And they flew me out and said, hey, we're going to throw you into some lessons, and we want you to be good at this by this time we shoot your scene. So originally, Annabelle's character is supposed to be a really good surfer. She's supposed to kind of pop up in the water and show Ian out of nowhere that she's this incredible surfer. So they prepped me for that, and then they thought it'd be fun to make it look like she didn't know what she was doing. So I got to learn how to surf and actually get good at it without actually having to show that I was ever good at it. So they thought that would be more endearing for her to be learning from him, and changed that once we were in Indonesia, which I was okay with because there was a lot less pressure to catch a wave and like not bust, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because I could look like I was struggling, and I was okay with that. But I got up on the second wave when we were shooting and rode the whitewater in and made it look like, hey, this is my first time. So that was a lot of fun. But I was like, why don't you guys let me show you what I can do? Come on. You taught me how. Why not?
Now, see, this is actually a very difficult thing for an actor or an actress, I can imagine. You know, when somebody, especially you're doing a movie about surfing, or if you're doing a movie about skateboarding or sports, you know, you have to make it look realistic. Now, do you feel that from your performance, a normal surfer would go, yeah, I can see that. I'm pretty sure she knows how to surf.
No. I think they would look at it and go, oh, she got up on that wave, and yay, I bet that was her first time, you know, which is fine. Who cares? I know that I can get out in the ocean, and I can learn, I can listen to it. I can feel when a wave is coming. I can paddle out. I can swim the heck out of, you know, I can paddle into it. I can drop in. I just, you know, I didn't get a lot of opportunity to show that, and it doesn't matter because surfing isn't for anybody else. It's for you. It's for this experience that you have out in the ocean. And as Ian describes much in the film, it's kind of indescribable. So I learned a skill that I think I will carry with me as long as I'm near an ocean. And, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what that looks like. I did try surfing in California when they were having their big swell from the Hawaii hurricane. And that was an absolute fiasco. I felt like I was going to die because I got held underwater for a long time and I wasn't prepared. And I didn't really feel like I was going to die, but I relaxed and kind of just let it take me. But wiping out's kind of fun too. So I had a good time.
Awesome.
I just can't get up on a wave in the United States. I have to be in Africa to do it.
See, all the more reason to take another trip to Africa.
Yeah, I'm working that out now. I'm trying to figure out a way to get back.
There you go. Well, I know that you don't have a ton of time. I did want to make sure for anybody listening, you can obviously tell that Rob is not here because of just some scheduling conflicts. But he did have a couple questions that he wanted asked. And
sure, go ahead.
And actually, yeah, and they're actually ones that I'm kind of curious too. And it's something we haven't touched on just yet. And, being what you do for a living, do you find that, being a Christian in show business presents challenges and, is it difficult to navigate that particular landscape just being a Christian?
Not really, actually. I haven't had any problems in terms of content. If I don't want to do a project, I don't want to do it. If I don't feel right about it, I'm not going to do it. But so far, that has not been an issue. If anything, I walk in knowing that there's nothing that they can give or take away from me in an audition because I have everything that I need and I don't worry about it. There's a lot less pressure to be like, I'm not in control here. So I feel like it's at this point, I've had a great opportunity. The Christian film industry has been very good to me. And I feel very led to break out and listen to my heart and be telling stories that I'm passionate about. And a lot of those are not necessarily in Christian, within a Christian context. I know that the world is not black and white, and there are a lot of stories that need to be told that are not PG-13. So it's difficult when it comes to learning your audience and knowing that when you're a part of a project that is being funded or is being led by the dollar sign, like what can we make that honors God that also will make money? Those are good business questions to have. And this industry is a business first and foremost. Now the Christian film market's setting in and they're starting to make money off of sermons on tape. And people are eating that up. People love going to the movie and not being afraid of what the content's going to be. But a lot of non-believers are really afraid to see a Christian film because they know exactly what the content is going to be, and they're not interested in that. They're not interested in having somebody talk at them for an hour and a half, because at the end of the day, they're not going home and saying, I believe in Jesus now. But there are tools and there are smart ways for us as believers to be a part of a movement of film that authentically portrays humanity in our worldview as believers. And that looks different. It looks very different than what we've seen in the past. And I think there's a shift happening. But you have people like the Sherwoods who are making incredible sermons on film with great writing and good acting. And they're generating a lot of income, and they're giving it away. They're using it, and they're putting their money where their mouth is, and they're being stewards of that. It's crazy how much God has blessed them because of their heart there and their obedience there. So I also know that blessing and favor are going to come into my life when I am also obedient, and I have to listen to what that is. I have to look at what that is and really dive in and ask those questions. What is my purpose? What am I here for? And if it's to be a storyteller as an actor, what stories am I meant to tell? So that question makes it a lot easier to be in this business because I'm always pushing forward with that in mind.
Well, I do want to touch on, you mentioned it just briefly, but I think you're right. I think there is some sort of a shift going on because, as Christians, people they want to see, movies that inspire them. They want to see movies that aren't, it's not a hard R. Like certain stories in the Bible are absolute hard R's or at least rated R. But, there are certain examples in Hollywood, like a perfect example for me, and I won't put words in your mouth, but for me, the movie Noah is a terrible, terrible movie. And they spent tons of money on it. And, from a secular perspective, they're trying to tell a Christian story. And I think what's starting to happen now is we have people in the industry that are Christians who are trying to say, look, we want to be good storytellers too. We want to tell big, exciting stories, and we might have to go, R or really hard PG-13, because these are the actual stories and these are the things that need to be said. Mm-hmm. But I think there's going to be more and more talented people, directors, actors, actresses, cinematographers, everyone who's going to be coming up in the Christian movie world that are going to be telling these stories that do it far better than the way that secular people are viewing these particular subjects.
And I think you're pointing in the right direction when you say that. I also fully believe in there not being a divide in a Christian film and a non-Christian film, a Christian actor and a non-Christian actor. For whatever reason, there's a divide in any sort of media, music, film industry, graphic arts, publishing, politics. People love to put things in boxes, and it's natural. It's human. We compartmentalize. And I am just so excited for the day when there is not a line drawn in the sand between a film that's wonderful and beautiful and redemptive and about forgiveness and about the elements of the gospel that resonate with our humanity, and the other side of that, well, here's a Christian film. That because we tell the world that you're saved by grace and the love of your Creator, that becomes a Christian movie. Why can't our worldview coexist amongst every other worldview that's in this melting pot of mush in Hollywood? I love movies that resonate with my spirit. It is not about, what message they're trying to tell me or what worldview they're trying to impose on me, because most of the time they're not trying to impose anything. So I'm ready for Christians to start making movies where they're not imposing a worldview. They're just being authentically honest as to who they are and what they believe, and letting that happen organically when they make a movie. And I think that line in the sand is becoming muddier and muddier, and I'm happy about that. But I also know that we have to be up there in terms of quality, in terms of performances. Our work must be as good, if not better, than anything else that we can see. It has to blend in and stand out for there ever to not be a divide anymore. So that's what I'm excited about. And I know so many people who are right there with me, who are following a calling on their heart to be great, to make excellent content, and who they are and who lives inside of them is going to be the first line of communication to the audience. It's just going to happen. There's no way around it. There are hundreds of worldviews out there. We don't need the Christian worldview to become compartmentalized. So I'm excited to see how that looks, how that starts to change.
I think you're exactly right. I think that line just needs to just be gone, and there doesn't need to be Christian music and Christian movies. There just needs to be music, movies. At the end of the day, these are just entertainment that can be used as tools. And so we just need to find a way to kind of get around that. But I did want to mention just a couple more things before I let you go. A lot of people were curious about your photography, because you not only do you act and many other things, and I actually do want to touch on also the different things that you're in other than photography, but a lot of people were curious, how did you get interested in that? I mean, I know you did go to college for that.
Yes, when I was in the 4th grade, I knew I wanted to be a photographer. And I knew because my mom had this old camera that was like a point and shoot, and she put film in it, and I couldn't put it down. Like, I was always grabbing it. I was always messing with it. I was always looking through photos. Nobody in my family was a photographer. Nobody had any cool tools to teach me anything. I just was like, I want to take pictures. So I did. From that point on, I think 6th, 7th, 8th grade, I would take like 400 to 500 photos, just of my friends, or doing things you do in middle school, taking pictures for the yearbook. Loved it so much. And in high school, we had a darkroom in our art department. So I learned how to develop negatives and how to project black and white film onto photosensitive paper. And that just changed everything for me. I was like, I can do this in my bathroom. This is so cool. And I went to college with that in mind. I originally really wanted to take it a step further and do cinematography. I wanted to be making moving pictures. But because of, art school was the way to go about 6 years ago. If you wanted to make films, you went to school and you learned how to do it. And nowadays, you don't really have to do that. You didn't have to do it then, but I thought you did. So I just decided to go to a school where photography was more celebrated and had a great program. And so I went to, the University of Montevallo, which is in Alabama, and I graduated after 4.5 years with a photography degree. And I learned so much. I loved it. I learned the digital side of work from a job that I had. And my mentor was teaching me digital photography, and I was studying traditional film in school. So I was getting the best of both worlds. And I loved how I could communicate with images, and I loved how images communicated to me. I resonate so much with a captured image, and it stuck, and I can't get away from it. So now it's my world. I always take my camera with me when I shoot on a film. If I have free time, if I'm focusing and don't have free time and I'm a lead character, I can't take my camera because I'll be way too distracted. But I love unit photography. I love telling the story of telling the story. And I think it's something I'll always do. So now being on both sides of the camera, I've learned so much, and have only just been a sponge of knowledge. Just watching what filmmakers do and watching what cinematographers do. The camera department ends up being my main center of focus. It's very distracting, actually. I'm like, what lens are you putting on right now? Is this my close up? What f-stop are you shooting at? So I get kind of nerd. We call it shop talking, where I get kind of nerdy, and I'm looking at these lenses they're shooting with, and I'm drooling because they're amazing. So it's fun. I love both things, and I think I'll always do both.
Okay. And then, along with, photography and acting, are there any other causes or hobbies that you find yourself into?
Oh my gosh, yes, all the time. If something's happening in the community, if wherever I am, I want to know what it is. I want to know, what are the organizations that are invoking change in a neighborhood. There's all kinds of connections that you can really make with the community if you just take a step forward and go out and look for it. We often underestimate our own willingness to serve. And, I've been very blessed with having long periods of downtime in between shooting movies and shooting series and shooting, short films. You have a lot of downtime. So you can choose what to fill your time with. And, I try to go out to Los Angeles at least once every 3 months and reconnect and refresh. I love it out there. I have a great community of people, and I love what the Dream Center is doing for, the Dream Center is an organization that brings in homeless people and people off the streets from all over and helps them get free from addiction, bringing prostitutes out of sex trafficking, most of the time dealing with not underage minors, but women who have been put into the trade and are choosing the life. They rescue girls from there all the time. And these people are full on 100% legit, and celebrities are pouring their money into this place because it operates at such a large scale that they need a lot of resources, and God always provides it. They take food trucks out in the neighborhood. It's incredible. And I just want to get my hands in it all the time. Every time I'm out there, we always make at least 1 to 2 trips to the Dream Center to see what's going on and figure out how to get involved. And Atlanta is one of the biggest hubs for the sex trafficking industry in the country, if not the biggest. I think last year, this consensus, it might have been 2012, was a $168 million industry in 2012. So the second largest city in the country for sex trafficking of underage minors is Seattle, Washington, and they're a good $70 million less than what Atlanta makes. And they gather this information from talking to pimps and underground research. So it's a big problem here, and a lot of people don't know about it. So there's an organization called Wellspring Living, which is similar to what the Dream Center does, but focuses specifically on trafficked underage minors. And yeah, it's a crazy world. I mean, I could really talk all day about, you know, what that looks like and what it's like to raise awareness and how to get involved. But, you know, that's not the scope. That's not my expertise at all. I'm just starting to learn about everything and figuring out how I can get involved and where I can serve there. There's just so much stuff that I try to get my hands in, and I would love to be able to give fully to all of it. But you know, time doesn't allow for that right now. But yeah, that's just kind of my world, and it's always changing.
Well, you've already been a really good sport and talked longer than you said that you were able to.
No, it's okay. I'm happy to do it. I've got somebody coming to fix my window, but he's not here, so we can just keep chatting.
There you go. Well, I do want to touch on again just some of the things that people had written in about that they were kind of curious. You know, you were born in Alabama, I believe,
mm-hmm.
and now when you're not filming and doing different things, you live in Atlanta. So. Mm-hmm. Is there something about the South that really, you know, being that you're an actress, you know, most people that, you know, they follow their dream to California, you know, is there something about the South that really, you know, makes you want that to be a staple of your life?
Not at all, actually. It's funny that I'm still here. I love the South. I love that I'm from here. There's so much about it that resonates in my soul. When I lived in Switzerland, every time I could hear bluegrass play, or every time I heard a country song, or every time I heard an American speak with a Southern accent, I was like, come here, let me just listen to you talk for 2 seconds. I used to watch Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, just because I missed the South. But being back here was not intentional at all. We had packed our stuff and moved, and were ready to go to Los Angeles, and you know, had money saved, and it wasn't because LA is where you go to follow your dreams. For me, it was, this is where the work is, so I need to go where the work is. But through a series of conversations and lots of gathering of information, Atlanta is actually where the work is. There's a lot in LA, but it takes a long time to develop those relationships with casting directors and do the whole grind of getting to the place where you are working in mainstream media, like television. But Atlanta is a huge hub for television right now. And it was so close to my hometown, which is a 3.5 hour drive, that this was a great transition city for us. And the work is here. So we're here. We're here until the work's not here anymore. And we'll go where the work is. But most of the people I'm close with in LA are either in Atlanta now working, and they have an apartment in LA and they fly them to Atlanta and they work out of Atlanta, or they are in Chicago or New York, but they're not shooting in LA. So there's just kind of this transition that's happening with the tax incentives and what's going on in the South, that people can shoot here for three times less than what they could shoot in Los Angeles and California. So they come here. So that's why we stayed. And it's a great city. We love Atlanta. We're enjoying it a lot.
Okay. Well, and you know, you being involved in acting, photography, you know, all these different causes, you know, and also you are also a wife. You know, is this something that is difficult, you know, trying to find your balance and everything?
As of now, no, because we're on the same team. You know, we root for each other. He picks up the slack when I'm, you know, crazy with stuff. I find that when you really both are in it and you're believing in each other and you're supporting each other and you establish that you are on the same team, you make it work. And it's got its challenges, but it's so much easier to have somebody walking it with you than doing it alone. Oh,
absolutely. I would think that is exactly the case. Well, like I said, you know, I don't want to keep you, and I know you've got somebody to come in to fix a window. So, but we will go ahead and kind of wrap things up for everybody. I think we got most of what your fans and fans of the podcast wanted to know. You've actually been really busy, it looks like, over the last couple of years, or even just this year, with some new things coming out now and in the future. What else will we be seeing from you in the near and in distant future?
Sure. Well, Coffee Shop is airing on Up TV kind of interstitially. It did a full weekend run. Actually, it did a Sunday run when it premiered. And then it did Friday night, last Friday night, 9 o'clock and 11 o'clock on Up TV. It will also be on DVD and available internationally, I'm pretty sure. So check Coffee Shop out. It's a lot of fun. It stars Laura Vandervoort, John Lovitz, Kevin Sorbo, Jason Berkey, myself, Corey M. Grant, Josh Ventura, Gabriela Lopez, and Montrell Miller. All amazing people. Directed by Dave Allen Johnson and produced by the Irwin brothers, who did October Baby. They were kind of in the background sidelines of Coffee Shop for us, making things happen. There's another one you can look for in the fall, or late fall, because it's already fall. Late fall, called 77 Chances, starring Andrew Cheney of Beyond the Mask and Seasons of Grey. Andrew's an incredible actor. He's it's a really fun story. He carries the whole thing, and it's a fun little blip where a guy wakes up the same day over and over again for 77 days. And I play his love interest in that film, Mac. That's a fun one. You don't want to miss that. I think that's going to release on DVD. They might do a theatrical run, but I think it's just going to be DVD. And I'm so proud of that movie. It's like the little movie that could. It's gonna make waves, I feel. It's a sweet story, written and directed by Tracy Trost. I have a short film that was funded on Kickstarter called Roses. And it stars Gregory Allen Johnson and myself. We got to work together for the first time, and it is a wonderful, sweet short film about a girl who goes blind and a stranger who helps her find her way. And that can be found online. The Roses short film can also be found on Facebook, and you can find out how to get a DVD. That is a sweet, sweet movie. Really, really proud of that one. I'm just gonna keep going. Like, do you want me to keep going?
No, absolutely. No, hey, like I said, we're on your time, so you talk as much as you want.
Today is a good day. Today, a short film I'm very proud of. Actually, everything I've done, I've looked back and been very like, wow, I got to do this. This is such a great project. No regrets, The short film called Grape Soda, written and directed by Justin Robinson. I love short films. I love popping in and popping out and doing good work, and then having this 10-minute piece to show. It's actually a little bit longer. It's about 20 minutes. And this one's going to be available online, probably today or tomorrow. YouTube and Vimeo. And it is something that, something like you've never seen before, starring Mark Ashworth, Isaiah Stratton, and myself. And last but not least, Mountaintop, written by, the adaptation from a novel by Robert Whitlow, directed by Gary Wheeler, who's known for doing a lot of sweet Southern family films. This one is a different role for me. I played an attorney and got to wear a suit and high heels, and it was fun. And that's a sweet film that the whole family can enjoy. It's called Mountaintop, and I don't know what the plans are for that, but I think it's probably going to be early fall, it'll be before the winter when that one's released. So last year was crazy. I had so much great work, and shot a pilot in January that may or may not get picked up for a season, but we'll see. I'll keep you guys posted. It's been so amazing to see these pieces finally come together and be able to share them with my fans. It's all happening at one time. It's like literally everything said, hey, let's just all come out right now. Let's just all come out in the fall of 2014. So that's been happening, and doing PR for that and meeting people has just been great. This is the other part of acting, that we get to do, is talking about our work. And you know me, I'm a talker, as you can tell. So I've enjoyed that. I've enjoyed it a lot. And I hope that you'll follow me on Twitter Rachel Drix. You can find me on Instagram, Rachel Drix, and I have a Facebook fan page where I update folks and get involved there. So yeah, that's the best way.
Yeah, and actually, I was going to touch on that. Again, she said, if you want to follow Rachel on Twitter, is at Rachel Drix, and it's RACHELDRIX. And if you're trying to look Rachel up, her name is spelled HENDRIX, not with an ICKS, in case anybody was trying to look her up. You can actually, follow, like she said, follow her on Twitter and Instagram. She also does have a website. Go to rachelhendrix.net and just see what's going on in her life and with photography, acting, and just whatever else is going on. Like I said, we'll let you get back to the rest of your day, but we really appreciate you taking time to be on the podcast, and we'll definitely have to reach out once you're doing some other projects and things and just see what's going on with you.
Absolutely. I'd love that.